Stage 4, week 5. Patient 1 passed away 6 weeks into his admission. Autopsy. Fungus found in brain cells. 30 minutes into the autopsy, a sudden burst of gas came out of the patient's mouth. Oh no. What was initially thought to be gas was figured to be spores of the fungus. 2 morticians were present in the room. They may have inhaled the spores.
Would you rather be in the razor box trap or the furnace trap? Let's get into how both of these work. So for the razor box trap, you are trying to stick your arms into this box in order to get an antidote to a poison that is in your veins. Now obviously, when you stick your arms through the little holes, they have all of those blades there. And so every time you pull down after you get the antidote, it is going to cut you over and over again. This lady does not survive her trap. Technically it was never meant for her, but whatever. Now the furnace room trap is a little interesting. So you have to climb into the furnace while it's not on fire in order to get the antidote. The antidote is at the other side of the furnace. Once you cross over to the other side of the furnace to get the antidote, the entire thing starts erupting with flames. And in order to get out, you have to crawl back to the opposite side through the flames, and you just have to twist this little knob on the wall that'll make all the fire go away. And then you can escape. It'll open the door for you to leave. The guy does not survive this trap either. To me, this one's pretty easy. I would take the razor box, personally.
Things that bother you, they never bother me.
It's Heidi Wong, and let's get into the story of The Cleansing Hour. The movie begins with a live stream where someone called Father Max is performing an exorcism. Then we find out he faked it all for views. Max plays the role of the exorcist, his friend Drew helps him host the live stream, and each video has a different actor pretending to be possessed by a demon. But when the actor of the next video gets kidnapped by a man crawling in a dark alley, Drew's wife, whose name is Lane, agrees to step in. And that's when everything goes wrong. Because the live stream begins and Lane doesn't look like she's acting at all. She's not following the script, her eyes are white, and there's a huge grin on her face. Then one of the crew members' arms bursts into flame, and soon his entire body catches on fire and he dies. The demon possessing Lane then says that if Max stops the live stream, it's going to kill Lane. But there's a plot twist at the end of this movie, revealing Max and Drew are hiding a secret much darker than their fake exorcism videos. So check out The Cleansing Hour and follow for more.
So we finally have some official concept art of what the Bubblehead nurse looks like in the Silent Hill 2 remake, and I'm gonna show you. Now behind me is the designs of the nurses from the movies, but I wanted to show you different examples of what the nurses have looked like over the years. This is the nurse from Silent Hill 1, and it's easily the most disturbing. In fact, they're actually referred to as puppet nurses because of that parasitic growth on their back. Here are the nurses from Silent Hill 3, and it's kind of similar to the Silent Hill 2 design, but definitely more human. And here's the design that popularized this creature. This is the original one from Silent Hill 2. And this is what they look like in the remake of Silent Hill 2. So in my opinion, this is definitely consistent with what I expected to see. But what do you guys think of some of the—
Do you know how truly terrible John Wayne Gacy was? His first victim was a 16-year-old boy named Timothy McCoy, who was sitting at a bus station in the middle of a winter night. After spotting him, Gacy asked him if he wanted to spend the night at his house so he could get out of the Chicago snow. The young boy happily agreed, so they went to his house, where they spent the night. On the following morning, the boy wanted to surprise Gacy by cooking breakfast for him. When he went into his room to wake him up, he had accidentally brought the knife he used in his hand. Gacy noticed the knife and immediately attacked Timothy, thinking he was in danger. He knocked him down onto the floor, took the knife and began frantically stabbing him. After numerous stabbings, he laid on top of him and listened to him drown in his own blood. He then began pleasuring himself while Timothy took his last breaths. After that, he went into the kitchen and noticed the 2 plates he had set up for them to eat. His heart dropped as he realized what he had just done.
This MI6 agent was found dead inside a locked duffel bag. Gareth Williams was born in Wales and studied maths at Bangor University. He ended up doing a PhD at Manchester University, and in 2001 he started working for the government. This was a job in security based in Cheltenham. At the time of his death, he was actually working for MI6 in London and had obviously had to keep his job very private. On August the 16th, 2010, he failed to show up to a work meeting he was supposed to attend. His colleagues noticed his absence and eventually reported him missing days later. Police went to his house to try and find him and noticed that the heating was turned up full blast. When they were inside the bathroom, they noticed a large, suspicious red duffel bag in the bath. There was a padlock on the outside and it was obviously full of something. When police managed to get the bag open, they found Gareth's body. Police found no fingerprints on the bag or bath and nothing was missing from Gareth's home. At first, his death was classed as suspicious and unexplained, and there were no injuries on his body or signs of any substances. Professionals actually attempted to try and lock themselves in the duffel bag to see if it was possible, but they failed to do so after about 400 attempts. It was concluded that it was impossible for Gareth to have actually locked himself inside the bag. Personally, I feel like that would be kind of obvious. There were some suspicious factors relating to the investigation, such as the Secret Intelligence Service keeping some evidence to themselves. Also, the methods that they used to interview Gareth's co-workers were deemed as strange. The coroner stated that Gareth was killed unlawfully, and the coroner criticised the SIS for not reporting him missing for a whole week. This is when police started releasing information to the media about questionable websites that Gareth had visited. They tried to suggest that maybe being tied up was something Gareth was into, and perhaps he did this to himself. The coroner believed that this was part of a media manipulation attempt. The coroner said that the possible involvement of SIS staff in the death was a legitimate line of inquiry for the police. This prompted a reinvestigation by the Met Police, which lasted a year, and the outcome is shocking. They concluded that the most probable scenario was that he had died alone in his flat after accidentally locking himself inside of the bag.
This woman shot and killed her daughter's murderer while he was standing trial and in court. So have you ever heard of Marianne Bachmeier? In the 1970s, Marianne was living with her daughter Anna in Lübeck, Germany. Marianne did have 2 older children, but both of them had been given up for adoption. Anna was described as a happy and sweet child. Marianne did tend to struggle a little bit because she was a single mother just trying to provide for her daughter. She ran a pub in Lübeck, and that's how she made ends meet. On May 5th of 1980, Marianne and Anna got into a pretty heated argument. Anna was only 7 years old at the time, but she decided after this argument to go ahead and skip school. Tragically, she was found dead later that day. It was that very same day that Klaus Grabowski, and I might have said that wrong, was arrested for the murder of Anna. Investigators were able to find out that somehow Anna had made interaction with Klaus. Klaus was a 35-year-old butcher in the neighborhood, and he already had a criminal record of child SA. Investigators were able to learn that Klaus had taken Anna to his home, and there he had locked her up and then strangled her with a pair of pantyhose. He then put Anna's body in a cardboard box and then put it on the bank of a canal that was nearby. He was arrested after his fiancée told police what she thought had happened. Klaus did admit pretty immediately that he had murdered Anna, but he also said that he had not essayed her. Klaus's version of the events were very strange and just, I don't think they're true at all. Klaus told police that he had murdered this 7-year-old girl because she had blackmailed him. Klaus said that Anna told him that she would tell her mother that he had tried to essay her if he didn't give her money. During this time in Germany, child essayers were often castrated when they committed their crimes. So I personally believe that Klaus came up with this story because he didn't want, or he wanted to avoid that. Klaus eventually went to trial, and while he was sitting in the courtroom, Marianne came in with a .22 caliber gun and shot at him 8 times. 6 times she hit him in the back. Klaus did die on the courtroom floor. And witnesses nearby heard Marianne saying things like, "I wanted to kill him." They also heard her say things like, "I wanted to shoot him in the face, but I shot him in the back. I hope he's dead." Marianne was then arrested as well. Part 2 will be up as soon as I'm done recording it.
Have you ever taken a photo and then somebody was in it who shouldn't have been? It was the year 1919 and Freddie Jackson was an airplane mechanic during World War I. When one day, tragically, Freddie was sucked into one of the engine's propellers and died instantly. But only 2 days later, his squadron took this picture. At first, they didn't think anything was wrong and everything seemed completely normal. But when the film later got developed, they all noticed something very strange. They all noticed that Freddie was in the picture. How's that for a photobomb?
Here's some horror films coming out this year that are probably going to be bangers, so you won't waste your fucking time watching them. Not that you do anything productive with your free time anyways. Part 1. First up is Insidious: The Red Door, which is the 5th movie in the Insidious franchise. This film takes place 10 years after the second movie and has the original cast. It's directed by Daddy Horror himself, Patrick Wilson, so that's pretty cool. And Dalton, the little boy from the first movie, is a grown-ass man. The iconic red-faced demon is also making a comeback. Wait. Where is he? My bad, he gets a little shy sometimes. This is a sneak peek of him now that was shown in the Red Door trailer. Next is The Boogeyman, which is based off Stephen King's novel, The Boogeyman. Two sisters are having a hard time with the passing of their mother, and their dad just isn't giving them the emotional support that they need. I wouldn't be able to relate to that at all. Anyways, a patient shows up at their house desperate for help. Then somewhere along the way, the boogeyman shows up and he just absolutely fucks everything up, as you guessed it. This trailer was super creepy. You gotta check it out. And third, we have the movie Maxine, which will be the 3rd film in the X and Pearl trilogy. How we all loved Mia Goth in X, and we especially loved her in Pearl, where she became one of the most relatable and iconic slasher villains of all time. There isn't a lot of info on this film yet, but it follows the character Maxine on her journey to becoming a star in the 1980s. And from what we've seen in X and Pearl, we know that she does not play with her showbiz. She is a crazy clout chaser and will do anything to be famous. That was like some intense vocal fry I just had. Like for part 2.
Here are 2 cases where a person was killed by someone secretly living in their home. Case number 1. 1 Minute Horrors episode 103. Viewer discretion. Got married in 1995 after a short courtship in Tennessee. After their marriage, Martha started a successful business, and Jeffrey joined her after losing his job. Martha was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she started having violent mood swings as Jeffrey became more involved in the business. In July 2004, when Jeffrey was 44 and Martha was 40, the two were staying in a hotel in downtown Nashville. Jeffrey left the hotel, leaving Martha alone. Martha left the hotel soon after and met 36-year-old Rafael Rocha Perez and his friends on the streets of the city and invited them back to her hotel room, where she had sex with all 3 of them. A month later, Martha moved out of her and Jeffrey's shared house that they had in Brentwood, Tennessee, and into a long-term hotel. Jeffrey then discovered that someone else had been staying in her hotel room when he noticed the bill indicating 2 occupants. After he stated that he wouldn't hold a grudge against her if she returned home, Martha went back but slept in a separate room. On April 11, 2005, Martha showed up at a neighbor's doorstep, blurting out that Jeffrey was dead. The police found Jeffrey's body in the master bedroom, beaten and strangled, with his head wrapped in a garbage bag and his body placed in a sleeping bag. Rocha Perez was discovered sleeping in the rafters of a nearby home under construction. Martha identified him as the man who killed her husband. During the investigation, it was revealed that Rocha Perez had been living in the storage room of Jeffrey's home without Jeffrey's knowledge. Martha was questioned by the police and revealed that Rocha Perez had killed her husband during a confrontation when Jeffrey creepily discovered him sleeping in that room. However, the autopsy revealed that he was killed 16 hours before Martha sought help, doubting her claim. Ultimately, both Martha and Rocha Perez were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
I've always been so disturbed by the idea of exorcism. And there's this movie that's out that's called The Pope's Exorcist, but I didn't know that the story behind it is actually based on some truth. So back in the day, Father Gabriele Amorth was a real priest with the Vatican, no less. He performed more than 30,000 exorcisms across his lifetime. Yes, you heard that, 30,000. But in this film, he goes to investigate one of those cases depicting the possession of a young child. He ends up uncovering something that the Vatican doesn't want to get out. There's something much darker behind it all.
Do you remember this terrifying flash horror game from the early days of the internet called Intruder? Some of you may remember this game from your childhood, and it has a crazy twist ending. If you aren't familiar with this game, it's a point-and-click horror game that takes place in black and white. Your friend calls you over to their house asking for help, and they tell you a man with a knife has broken in. Both the intruder and your friend are in the house, and it creates a very tense and disturbing situation. You eventually find a gun in one of your friend's drawers, and you load it with ammo. And there are blanks in the drawer too, but they're all gone for some reason. You find the intruder and put an end to him using the gun. But your friend doesn't know what's happened, and they're still hiding. You find your friend, but they think you're an intruder and pop out with a gun of their own. You have a decision to shoot back to save yourself, but you shouldn't do it, because those blanks from earlier are in.
I love horror movies, and since I've been doing this, so many of you have left me movie requests and recommendations of films that you want me to watch. So I've put together a list of your most requested movies. I'm interested in hearing other people's opinions on these films. So stitch this video letting me know what you think, or leave me a comment, and if I've missed any out, let me know. So Trauma, I think, is up there with one of the most requested movies I've gotten. I know very little about this film. I know it's set in Chile, and I know that I have been warned against watching this film. Some of you have gone into the details of this film, and yes, it sounds really, really fucked up. I want to know whether it's worth me watching. Is it a well-made film or not? And the same goes for a Serbian film. A Serbian film is probably the most requested film I've got. Now, I have actually seen this film. I've seen it twice, actually. But both times I saw it, I was 20 years old and I was very, very drunk. So that was 15 years ago. I remember the most shocking parts of this movie, but I can't remember whether it's a good movie, whether it's well made, or whether this is just grotesque for the sake of being grotesque. Let me know. So a lot of you have requested The Sadness. So from my understanding, The Sadness is a film from China and it's a zombie film, and I've been told that it's really gory. Zombie movies don't really do it for me. I'm very specific with zombies. Slow zombies do not scare me. You can just run away from them. Would this be worth my time? Is it a well-made movie? Let me know. Dogtooth is a film by a director that I really like, Yorgos Lanthimos. He did Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Lobster. So I've no doubt in my mind that I will like this film. It's been requested a lot, and I'm going to get around to watching it soon. Incident in Ghostland has been requested so many times. I don't know what this film's about. I've never seen the trailer. I know that it was released in sort of like the mid-noughties. So I'm hoping when I do see this film, it does make me feel a bit nostalgic. There were a lot of bad horror movies made around that era, so I hope this one isn't that bad. Let me know, do you like this film? It's been requested a lot. The Possession of Michael King has been requested an awful lot. Now, I love found footage movies and I love possession movies. And aside from The Last Exorcism or The Taking of Deborah Logan, found footage possession movies are usually quite bad. So I'm hoping this one isn't. Let me know. A lot of you have requested it, so it's got to be somewhat good. I like Tim Roth movies. I haven't seen The Warzone yet, and it's been requested a lot. I'm hoping it's going to be bleak, it's going to be dark. And Event Horizon. Event Horizon has been requested loads. And this is a classic that I know I should have seen, but I haven't. But it's definitely one I'm going to check out soon. Switchblade Romance is another well-requested movie. I know zero about this film. I've not seen a trailer. But when I talk about disturbing movies, this is a movie that people bring up. Is it that disturbing? Infinity Pool is a movie that I do want to see. Is it?
Woman walking down different areas of a big hospital that always seems to be devoid of life. In her video, she can be seen walking down the morgue, the hospital corridors. However, in one particular video, something creepy happens. Watch closely.